The 1995 Norwegian rocket incident demonstrated these dangers when Boris Yeltsin activated his nuclear briefcase after Russian radar detected what appeared to be a submarine-launched missile heading toward Moscow. Yeltsin prepared to order retaliation before identifying the object as a scientific rocket studying the aurora. The concentration of nuclear authority in individual leaders represents humanity's greatest vulnerability because it assumes perfect decision-making under impossible circumstances by people operating without meaningful institutional constraints. Yet human decision-making itself may soon become obsolete as nuclear powers increasingly delegate critical functions to computer systems that operate faster than any human can think. The AI wildcard when machines control nuclear weapons. Russia's perimeter system and US early warning AI at Cheyenne Mountain now make nuclear decisions faster than any human can process information. These systems analyze satellite data, radar signatures, and communication intercepts to identify potential nuclear threats within milliseconds of detection. The speed advantage seems obvious until you consider what happens when machines make mistakes about nuclear weapons. Russia's perimeter system represents the most advanced integration of artificial intelligence into nuclear command and control. This automated system monitors communication links between Moscow and regional military commands. If nuclear explosions sever these connections, AI algorithms assess the situation and can automatically launch retaliatory strikes without human authorization. Russian officials describe perimeter as a dead man's switch that ensures nuclear retaliation even if leadership gets eliminated. The system uses artificial intelligence to distinguish between communication failures caused by technical problems versus nuclear attacks. American early warning systems at Cheyenne Mountain employ machine learning to process radar data from thousands of objects moving through space simultaneously. Satellites, space debris, weather balloons, and missiles create complex tracking challenges for human operators. AI systems learn to distinguish between threatening and benign objects by analyzing movement patterns, heat signatures, and trajectory calculations. However, these same algorithms occasionally misidentify peaceful objects as incoming missiles. The 1995 incident involving a Norwegian scientific rocket triggered Russian nuclear alerts because AI systems classified it as a submarine-launched ballistic missile. Chinese nuclear command and control automation remains largely unclear according to the 2023 U.S. Defense Department report, though intelligence assessments suggest growing integration of AI systems into military decision-making processes. The uncertainty surrounding Chinese AI capabilities in nuclear systems creates additional risks because American and Russian systems must make threat assessments without understanding how Chinese automated systems might respond during crises. The integration of artificial intelligence into nuclear systems creates unprecedented automation that operates beyond human oversight. Machine learning algorithms develop pattern recognition capabilities through continuous training on classified data sets. These systems learn to identify threats, assess damage, and recommend responses without explicit programming for every possible scenario. The learning process means AI systems can develop behaviors that programmers never anticipated or intended. Nuclear command systems using adaptive AI could theoretically evolve responses that contradict human intentions or established doctrine. Cyber warfare against AI-controlled nuclear systems represents the ultimate asymmetric threat because attackers can manipulate machine decision-making without directly accessing nuclear weapons. Foreign intelligence services could inject false data into AI training sets, causing systems to misclassify threats or friendly forces. Malicious code could alter probability calculations that AI systems use for threat assessment. Sophisticated cyberattacks might corrupt machine learning models gradually over months or years, creating subtle biases that surface during nuclear crises. These attacks could remain undetected until AI systems make catastrophically wrong decisions during actual emergencies. The possibility of autonomous nuclear decisions emerges as AI systems become more sophisticated and integrated into nuclear command structures. Current AI systems require human authorization before implementing nuclear responses. However, the compressed timelines of modern nuclear warfare push decision-making toward increasing automation. Military planners consider scenarios where AI systems must act independently because human commanders cannot respond quickly enough to hypersonic weapons or submarine-launched missiles. The technical capability for fully autonomous nuclear systems already exists even if current policies prohibit their deployment. Existing arms control treaties like New START do not address artificial intelligence in nuclear weapons systems, creating a dangerous regulatory gap. These agreements focus on warhead numbers and delivery systems, while ignoring the command and control systems that actually trigger nuclear wars. This oversight means countries can integrate AI into nuclear systems without international verification or agreed safety standards. The absence of AI-specific provisions in nuclear treaties increases risks of incompatible systems interacting unpredictably during crises. Machine learning algorithms exhibit unpredictable behaviors as they process larger datasets and encounter scenarios outside their training parameters. AI systems designed for nuclear threat assessment might develop unexpected responses to novel situations that programmers never considered. The black box nature of deep learning means that even system designers cannot fully predict how AI will respond to complex inputs. Nuclear command systems using machine learning could theoretically recommend responses that appear logical to the AI but seem irrational to human commanders. The most terrifying scenario involves AI systems from different nuclear powers interacting unpredictably during international crises. American AI systems trained on classified intelligence data might misinterpret signals from automated systems operating under different parameters and assumptions. Russian automated nuclear systems could respond to AI-generated communications from other countries in ways that human operators never intended. These machine-to-machine interactions could escalate nuclear tensions without human awareness, until systems recommend launch orders based on AI analysis of automated behaviors from other nations. Technical vulnerabilities in AI-controlled nuclear systems multiply the attack surfaces that hostile actors can exploit. Traditional nuclear command systems used isolated communication networks with limited connection points for external interference. AI systems require continuous data feeds from multiple sources including satellites, radar networks, intelligence databases, and communication intercepts. Each data source represents a potential entry point for cyberattacks designed to manipulate AI decision-making. The integration of artificial intelligence into nuclear command systems represents humanity's surrender of ultimate control over its own survival to machines that operate faster than human comprehension, but lack human judgment about the consequences of nuclear warfare. Yet these theoretical risks pale compared to the concrete reality of what modern nuclear weapons would actually do to the cities where most humans now live. Ground Zero 2025: What happens when the bombs hit today's cities? A modern nuclear weapon detonated over Manhattan would kill 583,000 people instantly according to ICAN's 2025 analysis, with over 1 million more injured within the first 24 hours. These numbers reflect current population densities in megacities that house millions of people within blast radius zones. Tokyo contains 37 million residents packed into high-rise buildings that would collapse simultaneously from nuclear shock waves. Delhi houses 32 million people in structures never designed to withstand nuclear attacks. The concentration of human beings in modern urban centers creates unprecedented vulnerability to nuclear weapons. Modern thermonuclear weapons produce initial flashes reaching 180 million degrees that ignite everything combustible within 9 miles of ground zero. The thermal pulse arrives at light speed before victims hear or feel anything else. Clothing catches fire on people standing outside 15 miles from the explosion. Degree burns cover anyone within 25 miles who has direct line of sight to the fireball. Glass windows melt and flow like water. Asphalt streets burst into flames. Metal structures warp and twist from heat that exceeds the core temperature of the sun. The thermal effects alone would kill hundreds of thousands before shock waves arrive seconds later. Urban development patterns in 2025 create maximum vulnerability to nuclear weapons because cities concentrate critical infrastructure in downtown areas surrounded by dense residential neighborhoods. Modern skyscrapers use steel frame construction that collapses uniformly when subjected to nuclear shock waves traveling at 1,000 miles per hour. Glass facades become millions of projectiles moving at lethal velocities. Underground parking garages and subway systems channel shock waves that amplify destructive forces. High-rise residential towers house thousands of families who cannot evacuate during the seconds between flash and shock wave arrival. Electromagnetic pulse effects from high-altitude nuclear explosions would destroy electronic devices across entire continents within microseconds of detonation, according to SIPRI's analysis of EMP damage radius. A single nuclear weapon detonated 250 miles above Kansas would generate electromagnetic pulses destroying electronics from coast to coast. Cell phones, computers, automobiles, medical equipment, and power grid components would cease functioning instantly. Critical infrastructure supporting modern cities depends entirely on these electronic systems that nuclear electromagnetic pulses would eliminate permanently. Power plants require computerized control systems to regulate electricity generation. Water treatment facilities use electronic monitoring to ensure safe drinking water supplies. The interdependence of electronic systems means that electromagnetic pulse effects would cascade through every aspect of urban life. Medical response capabilities in 2025 remain completely inadequate for mass casualty events involving hundreds of thousands of radiation victims requiring immediate treatment. New York City hospitals contain approximately 25,000 beds serving 8.3 million residents. A nuclear attack would generate over 500,000 burn victims requiring specialized treatment that only a few hospitals can provide. Radiation sickness develops over days and weeks, overwhelming medical facilities already struggling with immediate trauma cases. Medical personnel would face impossible triage decisions about which patients to treat when resources allow saving only a small fraction of victims. Psychological trauma from nuclear attacks would destroy social cohesion and trigger complete breakdown of civil order within hours of detonation. Survivors would witness mass death on scales that human psychology cannot process normally. Emergency responders would abandon their posts to search for family members. Police and military personnel would face impossible choices between duty and protecting their own families. Mass panic would prevent organized evacuation or rescue operations. The psychological shock of nuclear war would incapacitate entire populations, even in areas outside direct blast zones. Environmental contamination from nuclear weapons would render vast urban areas uninhabitable for decades while spreading radioactive materials through weather patterns affecting millions of additional people. Radioactive fallout travels hundreds of miles downwind from ground zero, contaminating farmland, water supplies, and residential areas. The Chernobyl exclusion zone remains largely uninhabitable 38 years after that accident involved a single reactor meltdown. Nuclear weapons produce far more radioactive material distributed over much larger areas. Major cities struck by nuclear weapons would become permanent dead zones where human habitation remains impossible for generations. Global supply chains supporting modern civilization would collapse completely after nuclear attacks on major cities, because manufacturing, shipping, and financial centers exist in precisely the locations that nuclear weapons would target. Shanghai handles 20% of global container shipping. Nuclear attacks on major ports would halt international trade within days. Financial markets centered in New York, London, and Tokyo would cease functioning if those cities suffered nuclear attacks. Manufacturing supply chains requiring just-in-time delivery would break down when transportation networks and communication systems stopped operating. The interconnected nature of modern economies means that nuclear attacks on a few major cities would trigger global economic collapse, affecting billions of people who never experienced direct nuclear effects. Food distribution systems depend on transportation networks that would cease functioning after electromagnetic pulse affects disable vehicles and communication systems. Agricultural regions require fertilizers, pesticides, and equipment manufactured in urban centers that nuclear attacks would destroy. International banking systems would collapse when major financial centers became uninhabitable, preventing commerce and trade worldwide. Updated death toll calculations show that nuclear war in 2025 could eliminate 70% of human life through direct effects: radiation exposure, starvation, and disease in the months following initial attacks. The world population of 8 billion people lives increasingly in vulnerable urban centers that nuclear weapons would target first. Agricultural systems supporting global food supplies would collapse from electromagnetic pulse effects and radioactive contamination. Medical systems would fail completely, unable to treat radiation sickness, trauma, and infectious diseases spreading among weakened populations. Yet the immediate devastation from nuclear explosions represents only the beginning of humanity's ordeal. The smoke and debris thrown into the atmosphere would trigger environmental changes that make the direct effects of nuclear weapons seem almost insignificant by comparison. Nuclear winter 2025, the climate catastrophe that follows. Climate scientists updated their nuclear winter models based on SIPRI's 2022 Nature paper showing that 150 teragrams of smoke would cause 8 degrees Celsius cooling in mid-latitudes, refining the original TUN 1983 model with current atmospheric conditions altered by decades of climate change. The new calculations reveal outcomes far worse than original projections from the 1980s. Current atmospheric circulation patterns, disrupted by global warming, would distribute nuclear-generated smoke differently than scientists predicted during the Cold War era. Professor Brian Toon's team published updated research showing that nuclear winter would unfold more rapidly and severely than previous models suggested. Their calculations demonstrate that global temperatures would drop by 2.7 degrees Celsius within weeks of nuclear exchange. The mid-latitudes would experience temperature drops of 5 degrees Celsius that would persist for years. These temperature reductions would occur against a baseline atmosphere already stressed by greenhouse gas concentrations exceeding 420 parts per million. The interaction between nuclear winter cooling and existing climate change creates unprecedented environmental conditions never experienced in human history. The black carbon produced by burning cities, forests, and industrial facilities rises into the stratosphere where it blocks sunlight for years. Unlike volcanic ash that settles relatively quickly, nuclear-generated smoke particles remain suspended at altitudes above weather systems that would normally wash them from the atmosphere. This smoke injection would create immediate and catastrophic climate effects across the globe. Agricultural systems supporting global food production would collapse completely within months of nuclear winter onset. Wheat production requires specific temperature ranges and growing seasons that nuclear winter would eliminate across vast regions. Corn harvest would fail when temperatures drop below critical thresholds during growing seasons. Rice paddies would freeze in previously tropical regions. The combination of reduced sunlight, lower temperatures, and disrupted precipitation patterns would eliminate crop production across continents. Current agricultural yields depend on precisely timed planting and harvesting schedules that nuclear winter would render impossible. Climate change altered baseline conditions for nuclear winter scenarios by creating more volatile weather patterns and stressed ecosystems that would collapse more rapidly under additional environmental pressure. Current ocean temperatures and circulation patterns differ significantly from conditions that existed during original nuclear winter modeling. Warmer oceans would interact with nuclear winter cooling to create extreme weather events including unprecedented storms and temperature fluctuations. The Amazon rainforest and other critical ecosystems already stressed by climate change would cross tipping points into permanent collapse when subjected to nuclear winter conditions.